So, the Super Mario Bros. Movie is almost 3 years old now. Happy birthday in advance. I remember when it came out all those years ago, and the splash it made on the scene. Nintendo and Illumination had been building up hype for years, with several Nintendo Directs and a few hiccups along the way.
Of course.
But all this turned out to be worth it, because the movie made over $1 billion at the box office, and ended up as the second biggest film of 2023. As for reactions though, they were a little more mixed. Quite a lot of critics were very harsh on the film, while audiences, especially Mario fans, generally loved it. As for me, I can safely say I had a great time with it. I've been a lifelong fan of the franchise, and I think being among the first to see it in cinemas really boosted my enjoyment of the film. That was in April 2023 though. It's now March 2026 as of recording, and with the Super Mario Galaxy movie about to release in less than a month, I wanted to take a look back at the original film before the sequel releases in cinemas, and see if it was as good as I remember it being. In fact, I went and bought a 4K Ultra HD Steelbook just for this video. If that doesn't say I'm a big Mario fan, then I don't know what does. Anyway, let's look into the film, shall we? Is the Super Mario Bros. Movie any good 3 years later? I think the best place to start should be with the first thing we see, which are the visuals. Even 3 years later, I still think the visuals are fantastic and are basically the highlight of the film. This movie was clearly made by Mario fans, from how they updated the designs of the characters for the big screen, to the huge backgrounds that helped build the world of the Mushroom Kingdom and more. This even includes Brooklyn at the start of the film, which is where we see the animators start including a few Easter eggs. On a side note, I'd say one of the best parts about this movie for Mario fans, and by extension Nintendo fans, is to spot all the references to the games and other media throughout. This extends to the soundtrack, which features so many different renditions of songs from different Mario games. Seriously, this can pretty much be compared to something like Mario Kart World in a way, just with how many remixes there are. And the character animation is also really faithful to the games to a surprising extent, with moves like ground pounds and wall jumps making solid appearances, even if they don't appear all the time. Mario's sort of always been known for his acrobatics, so it's nice to see that he's apparently always been this way, if you consider this to be his origin story. As you can tell, clearly the animation and visuals were where the most amount of effort was put in, and I think the animators at Illumination should be proud of themselves. According to the directors, they apparently upgraded their systems just to animate this, and I think it shows, to most of Illumination's previous films. So the visuals are great, and that's at least something I think everyone can agree on. So far, I've only had positive things to say about this. I will say though, this movie is not perfect by any means. Something to note is that Mario games are not typically known for their masterful storytelling. For a video game, that's fine because the main focus is on the levels and the overall gameplay. For a movie though, where storytelling is an important part of the overall likability, it does become a problem. My biggest problem with the film is that the story isn't really great. In particular, it's the pacing I'm not a big fan of, since the movie always wants to rush from one scene to the next, as if the screenwriters were literally speedrunning one of the Mario games, going non-stop from level to level. This pretty much leaves no time for any breaks or moments of respite in the film, meaning no time for really any character development, no time to explain things in any detail for those unfamiliar with the franchise. It's just, here's a scene, finish it, move on, rinse and repeat. A lot happens in this movie, and with a pace that matches Sonic the Hedgehog's speed, it can be hard to keep up with everything that happens, which can make for an unenjoyable experience in most scenarios. With that said though, I think this may have been the intention. If you really think about it, I think the people who made this were just trying to have fun with the source material they were given. I mean, at its core, the film is about an Italian-American plumber that falls into a kingdom populated by people with mushroom heads and has to fight off an evil fire-breathing turtle who has a crush on the princess, who, by the way, is a proper human. All of that alone is a wild concept, and that doesn't even include the idea of power-ups and other kingdoms and beings that are featured here. You could try and explain all of this to those unfamiliar with Mario, but that would require a lot of work and exposition. So instead, the film just rolls with it, and I think to some extent, it does work in the movie's favour by making it more enjoyable to watch. Don't get me wrong, the story is still not great, but I don't think it needs to be. It's a Mario movie. not a film that's trying to be a thought-provoking masterpiece. And because it embraces its wacky ideas, it ends up becoming an enjoyable experience because of it. Speaking of wacky, I think this is a good time to talk about the characters, and in particular...
Mario's little brother, Luigi, will be...
I can't take any more, Miyamoto!
Sorry, I just love watching some of these reactions so much. Starting with Mario himself, easily the most controversial thing about this movie was the casting of Chris Pratt as the Italian plumber. And it's mostly because he isn't Charles Martinet, that's how I pronounce his name, or even Italian among other things. And when Chris Pratt didn't even attempt to do an Italian accent in the film, except for the funny intro, I think it did raise some more eyebrows. With this said, I think he does an okay job. I think it was ultimately the right decision to just have his normal voice, since the over-exaggerated Italian accent may have been a bit much. Mario himself doesn't really feel like he goes through much of an arc, and that's mostly because of the writing here, but he does come off as a likable character for his determination, I guess. His brother, voiced by Charlie Day, is a character I feel has the most wasted potential here. We see Luigi is very timid and reliant on Mario, which could have provided some good character development when they get separated, but he ends up in a cage for most of the movie, with not a lot of screen time. I do think this is a shame because, let's just be honest, Luigi is a goated character in general, and Charlie Day's performance is actually really good here. I guess when we do see him on screen, at least we get to see that psychotic Luma though. Peach, voiced by Anya Taylor-Joy on the other hand, has a welcome update to her character, taking a leadership role and clearly caring for the other Toads in the Mushroom Kingdom. Peach effectively acts as a bit of a mentor for Mario as he journeys throughout the Mushroom Kingdom, having grown up there for most of her life. So it makes sense that she's not the damsel in distress this time, and that role can be passed to Luigi, who has much more of a connection to Mario. Moving on, Toad, or at least the one voiced by Micheal-Key, is one of the main comic reliefs. In terms of the humour in this film, I find it generally comes off as cute, and that's mostly thanks to a lot of the visual gags from Toad. Donkey Kong doesn't appear until the second half of the movie, but I think Seth Rogen actually did a good job here, and made the most of the time he had on screen. But then there's Bowser. He is without a doubt the best character in the film, at least in my opinion. The King of the Koopas is a really intimidating threat, and embraces family-friendly villain stereotypes, along with a massive crush on Peach. And thanks to Jack Black's performance, he becomes probably my favourite part of this movie, personally. Bowser clearly loves being evil, and he really makes the most of every second he has. I still think the writing does hurt the characters to an extent, but thanks to some of the base personalities and voice acting, I think they make this film pretty worth it to watch and enjoy. That pretty much summarises my main thoughts of the film altogether. This is definitely a flawed film, with a not so great story, but it makes up for it with some great animation, enjoyable characters, an amazing score, fun Easter eggs, and a few standout performances. To answer the question of whether I still think this is a good movie, I'd say definitely yes. I do think I enjoyed it a little less on my most recent viewing compared to when I first saw it at the cinema 3 years ago, but I still find it to be a good film nonetheless. If you haven't already seen it somehow, I'd recommend checking it out, especially if you're a big fan of the franchise. And finally, do I think the next movie will improve on some of my criticisms of this film? Honestly, no. At the end of the day, this movie was made by people who wanted to have fun, and judging from the trailers, I think the Mario Galaxy movie will be in much the same vein, which, considering this movie's overall execution, I think it will be fine. And with that, I hope everyone enjoyed this review. This is my first time doing a review like this, so feedback will be appreciated. Like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this in the future. I will be making a review of the Super Mario Galaxy movie soon after it releases, so I hope you all look forward to that. And with that, I'll see you later.